lie about Canada, that Canada does not allow Americans bank into Canada.
You know, we're not treated well by Canada, and we have to be treated well. Banks are not, as an example, allowed. Did you know that banks, American banks, are not allowed to do business in Canada?
Just have a look behind me. So that's the Citibank, which is one of the prominent bank in America, started in New York. And the irony is that outside the same bank that we have Chipotle and Starbucks, which is also two American companies, there are Americans bank in Canada. So let me show you something else too. So not only we have Citibank in Toronto, we also got a Bank of America in the middle of downtown Toronto. So you could also see RBC behind me at the side. If you turn this way, you could also see Bank of America behind me. So apart from these two banks, Canada has almost 16 banks operating in Canada, and they have been here for years now. So these banks in total represent around 50% of bank assets in Canada. So Canada have something called Bank Act, which regulates Canadian banking system in Canada. So under this law, Americans bank can operate in Canada as long as they follow Canadian regulatory requirements. So basically Canada wants to make sure that any bank that's setting up their shop in Canada are financially stable and follows Canadian regulations. But here's the truth, American banks are not banned. They have to follow the rules like everybody else. With the result of this strict regulation, that's why we have fewer bank failures in Canada. The last bank failed in Canada, that was in 1996. As compared to US, the last bank failure that happened in US, happened in 2023, where Silicon Valley Bank failed, and which caused a bank run. So as compared to that, Canadian banking system is highly stable and does not allow risky bank moves in Canada. Makes sense, right? Now you might be wondering, why would even Donald Trump say this? Well, it probably has to do much more with the trade tensions going between US and Canada. Remember those tariffs Trump imposed on Canadian steel and aluminum? Yeah, that definitely created some friction between these two countries. So maybe just Trump is trying to stir the pot by throwing this bank lie into the mix. But here's the truth. American banks are not being blocked to operate in Canada. But these American banks are not interested to involve themselves into the regular day-to-day business of Canadian customers. So they just operate highly in the asset management, the wealth management, and loans and credits for Canadian companies as compared to they dealing with the regular Canadian customers.
Canada. Nobody knows that Canada's charging our dairy farmers. They have 270% tariffs. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. They have up to 400%. They have a couple of tariffs at 400%. Nobody knows that. Nobody talks about that.
So now come to the dairy part. Canada has something called supply management, which allows Canada to control the dairy production in Canada, where Donald Trump is making a claim that saying Canada charged outrageous tariff on dairy product from US. That is not true either. So Canada has quota for USA under USMCA, also known as CUSMA. Go above that quota, they get charged that tariffs. But the United States has been undersupplying that quota, so they are not been charged with those tariffs still yet. Even they double the supply to Canada, they still be under that limit. So that's another lie about Canada. I think at this point I believe that Canada has to hit back. Rather than they hitting their economy, I think we should try to hit their dollar. I think that's the US get their power from. Japan is trying to do that thing and it's working, including hitting the suppliers from the red states. Canada should also hit US dollar. I think at this point everybody is wishing this chaos to end because we all want to get back to our normal life. So last year I planned my trip for this year. I wanted to go to LA this year, but I can't go with this whole shenanigans are going on. I changed my trip to Mexico, but I can't take that trip either because I don't want crappy stuff happening in Canada and I'm stranded at airport in Mexico. Because most of the crazy thing happens when you are at the airport at different country. I think this is the end of this video. I hope things get better soon. I will see you guys in the next video. Till that time, stay safe.